Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to a new video. In this video I'm gonna show my third game of my recent tournament in Graz, and I played with the black pieces against international master Kantorik, and the game started with the Nimzo-Indian defense. Queen c2 variation. Here I should have castled first. I played d5, which was not according to plan, but he didn't punish me by going into some exchange Ragosian, which I usually don't play, but instead he went for a3. I took, of course, queen takes, and now I played c5. This c5 push is very standard because white needs to make a decision, and if he doesn't stabilize the center, I can take and sometimes hit the queen then and then even push further and gain some advantage in the center. So for that reason he played e3, covering the center with a pawn. I decided to take and to see how he's gonna recapture. If he captures with the queen, I'm winning more and more time, and this bishop is kind of stuck for a moment. But if he takes with the pawn, I will finally be able to play against the isolated pawn, which is the most likely structure to arise, because sooner or later I will probably take here, and then this d4 pawn might turn into a weakness. Of course it's level here, but I felt quite comfortable, and I decided to play d takes c4, which is a bit premature. Usually I'm always telling just take on c4 when this bishop already moved, because then he needs two moves to capture there. However, in the game I felt that I kind of remembered that's the moment to take, but maybe I was wrong, and also I was a bit afraid of him closing the position, but it's just not worrisome. So I could just have castled, and if he goes something like c5, he really has no development, and I can get a huge initiative, opening the center, which is very logical. Okay, of course you need to calculate stuff here, but at least you shouldn't be that worried about c5. However, it's not that easy, and he doesn't need to play c5, but he could instead continue knight f3, knight c6, bishop g5, and now I kind of have no waiting moves, because I really want to go here, but I cannot play b6 really because of takes and my knight is loose. So now I cannot really win the fight for the tempi that this bishop needs to move first, because I have no particularly sensible waiting move here. So now I would need to take, and I'm also not gaining this tempo. So in the end it's very similar to the game, but it was a bit more accurate to start with castling. So instead I took, he played bishop takes, I castled, he played knight f3. And now I played something which is kind of a blunder or a miscalculation. And I was really upset when I realized what I did, because I played b6 here. And it's really not that clever, because I was planning to answer bishop g5 with knight e4. And this line would well be working, because he needs to take my queen, otherwise I just take his pair of bishops. But once I take on c3, he now has this strong intermezzo taking on b6, winning a pawn, basically. And that's the main problem. If I would instead have played knight c6, this would all work out quite well, because in this situation he cannot win a pawn by the gain of time, and if he takes my knight, I take his bishop. And black would be fine, and that was my plan, but I somehow missed this bishop takes b6 in advance. So after b6 I realized I cannot really do this because I lose a pawn. So I needed to switch plans, and still I thought it's not that horrible. So I played bishop b7, quite logical, and now I played knight c6. I think in general knight d7 is a bit passive. The knight protects f6, that's a big plus, but I don't have any pressure on the center, and I have no further routes for my knight. So I thought knight c6 is the way to go. It's also harder for him to jump here, for example, because d4 might need protection, and I had another plan in mind. So if you want to challenge yourself, you can think about the position and consider some plans, and we will discuss some possibilities. So in the game I played knight e7, and this is quite typical because this damage of the pawn structure, it comes at a cost. So he needs to give up his bishop, and also it's very hard for him to attack my king because I can put a knight here maybe, sometimes even here. Sometimes I can just block the d5 square or move my king and use the g file maybe even because my bishop is so good. In the game I thought it's the critical continuation though to take, but even computers say that black is better here. White has this weak pawn, but I think more importantly this bishop is very good. He has no chance to attack my king. I can maybe improve the knight somewhere, and yeah, black is okay. So that's a reasonable plan. My plan is, of course, maybe I go here next, and then I ask the bishop, and it cannot stay on this diagonal pinning my knight because yeah, there's just no space. So what else could you consider? Maybe some of you consider rook c8, which seems reasonable, I think. Was there something I was afraid of? Probably no. Maybe I was just thinking I'm postponing some concrete issues like how to solve this pin. Maybe he is just dropping his queen away or something. Probably that's it what I was afraid of. Let me think. Maybe something like going there with the queen. Also, I'm not having those tricks with knight e4 any longer now. Of course it's playable, so you could go for it, actually. I honestly like it now when I see it. There's some concrete issues, but I doubt that this is serious because, yes, maybe just knight a5. Hitting this bishop. If he takes here, okay, if I take with the queen, maybe that's even fine, because after it takes, this bishop is still hanging, and after this I can take d5. Okay, it's a bit worse for black, for example, like this. If I lose the d5 pawn, it's a bit worse for me, but if I don't lose it, okay, I'm a pawn up, but yeah. So rook c8 is reasonable too, if that was your idea. All other moves, okay, maybe you could also start this way, but I wouldn't like it that much, but it's still an option you could consider, and maybe you could also start this way. That was also a question for me, like, should I play knight e7 immediately, or should I start with h6 and only after bishop h4 go knight e7? But I felt that it can have disadvantages to go h6, because once the bishop went here, I no longer have this kind of fork. And this is some tactical pattern I don't want to lose, yeah? So I thought it's useful after knight e7, for example, I'm threatening knight e4, which I would not if I would include h6, bishop h4. Then I would not threaten knight e4, because it just hits the queen but not the bishop. So that's why I chose to play like this, and I equalized quite comfortably, but it was very hard to gain something after that. After knight e5, I just took the bishop, and now I rerouted my knight a little bit. And I tried to play against the isolated pawn, but yeah, what should I say? He did a good job, and it was very hard to get something real out of this. I tried to not just go to the c line because I thought it would trade too much and be too easy, because I think I need some rooks to pressurize this pawn. Now he went here, which I yeah, expected kind of, and I thought now I have a very nice maneuver. Maybe you can think about it, like where would you like to have this knight? and we will just continue with the game. I decided to reroute this knight to f6 and then to d5, which is the perfect square blocking the isolated pawn. But even though I managed to do this, he also rerouted his bishop, which is quite good now, and my knight is kind of restricted, and I cannot really pile up my pieces to really win this pawn, and yeah, I didn't see a real way to make progress here. I also need to control that he's not pushing. I can play like this, but it's very hard to add a third attacker on the d4 pawn. So yeah, it was very tough, and the game ended in a draw. In the end, I needed to be a bit careful not to be over pushing, because here after d5 my advantage is gone. Also important to know that I'm not winning a pawn in the rook ending, because after a4, rook b3, oh wait, a4, rook c4, he has this nice rook b5, and then he will liquidate the queen side and it's a draw. But in the game, not much else happened. I decided to play g5, but yeah, he covered it all, and after b5 I realized, okay, maybe I need to be a bit careful, not that he's cutting off my rook, but it's still a comfortable draw for black, because I don't really have that many weaknesses, maybe those, but white is also having weaknesses, and I decided to bring my rook here. Now I'm attacking this weakness, so he can almost never leave, he cannot attack my pawn, and after some repetition like this, going back and forth, we agreed to a draw. So yeah, no real chances here. Maybe the one or other tiny chance I had, but yes, sometimes you just need to be solid with black. And yeah, that's it for this game. Next game I will be white again. Stay tuned, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.